Hello everyone out there in YouTube land. This is a video that's going to be on the Rittenhouse trial. Gage Grossman, star witness for the prosecution, has admitted under oath, under penalty of law of perjury. He swore to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help him God, that when his hands were empty and up, Mr. Rittenhouse did not fire at him, did not point his weapon at him, did not do anything to him. But when he pointed a loaded Glock at Mr. Rittenhouse then proceeded to fire his weapon in defense. Now that's a clear-cut case of self-defense. The other gentleman that he killed, one had hit him in the head, well, actually in the neck, twice with a skateboard. Now, hitting someone in the neck with a skateboard can cause severe injury and death. Hitting them in the head can cause severe injury and death unless they have a very thick skull, like myself. You can hit me in the head all day long. You won't kill me, you won't knock me out, but you will piss me off. And the person threatened Mr. Rittenhouse a couple of times. When the person tried to take Mr. Rittenhouse's firearm, Mr. Rittenhouse then proceeded to fire upon the gentleman, striking and killing him. Yes, he pulled the trigger 4 times. He fired off 4 rounds at that gentleman. But you know what? When you try to take my weapon, I will continue to fire until either my weapon is empty or that threat is no more. The next gentleman was trying to stomp Mr. Rittenhouse's face. He was trying to make him unconscious, trying to kick him in the head to make him unconscious so he could then stomp his face and kill him. Therefore, risk of bodily injury and or death. Again, clear-cut case of self-defense. So you got 3 people, all 3 that Mr. Rittenhouse shot, clear trying to do bodily injury and or death to Mr. Rittenhouse. Mr. Rittenhouse defended himself, which every single American, white, black, yellow, orange, with fucking green polka dots has the right to do. That is in our Constitution. However, the media has been framing Mr. Rittenhouse as a white supremacist, as someone who went to Kenosha with no business to be in Kenosha. He just went there to kill black or brown people. Now, the media has also said that this trial is white privilege on steroids. All of these narratives are false. Mr. Rittenhouse did not go there with the intent of killing people. He went there with the intent to help. He cleaned, earlier in the day, he had been cleaning graffiti off of a school. He had, early in the night, he had rendered first aid to people to help them out. He was pepper sprayed at one point. He had a friend of his have a chemical agent bomb thrown and detonated. He helped that person out. He helped a young lady who had a sprained ankle out, or twisted ankle, something like that. He was there to help out. However, this is all on video, by the way. There is no video evidence that the gentleman with the skateboard was there to help anyone out. The person who tried to stomp Mr. Rittenhouse's head in wasn't there to help anyone out. There is evidence in video that they were there to riot, loot, arson, burned down the church, which I think is pretty fucked up. I mean, you're gonna burn down a church because a career criminal who was higher than a kite died in police custody. Now, I'm not saying what the officer did was correct. I'm not saying that it was wrong. I am saying that that officer lost his job due to political and mob rule. He's even been found guilty because of mob rule. And I pray that that officer gets another trial that is not televised, that is not put in the media so that he can get a fair trial and that then he will be released. Because personally, I don't think that officer did anything wrong. Floyd was so high that if he was in the back seat of any vehicle, he could have been in the back seat of an ambulance and that man would have died because he had more fentanyl in his system than it would take to kill 50 grown men. Now that's saying something because it takes a lot of fentanyl to kill a man, especially a man who's a drug addict, been using drugs all his life, career criminal. Now, you ask, well, what does Floyd have to do with Rittenhouse? Well, what does the officer have to do with Rittenhouse? Well, it's the same thing. The officer did his job, maybe a little too aggressively, but in the video you can clearly see that, he actually does things that he shouldn't have done to try to help Mr. Floyd, but Mr. Floyd still died. Why? Because he was high as a kite, and when you ingest as much fentanyl as Floyd did, you're going to stop breathing. That is why when you are on pain medication like fentanyl, methadone, Oxycontin, you are given Narcan, a drug that counteracts the effects of the opioid that you are taking. So that if you take too much accidentally and you start feeling like you cannot breathe, you take that medication and shortly thereafter, hey, guess what? You can breathe again. But Mr. Floyd wouldn't let them do anything. He was combative, he resisted, and then he died. That happens. But not once is Mr. Floyd's record or personal life introduced into any kind of evidence. Because if that was so, especially in the media, it wasn't done. Because had that been done, Mr. Floyd would have been proven to be the career criminal drug addict that he is, and it would have shot the left's narrative all to hell. We wouldn't have Black Lives Matter. We wouldn't have had, well, non-Antifa was still around, but we wouldn't have Black Lives Matter bullshit, the commies, and all Black Lives Matter is the aggressive military arm of Antifa and communism. If you look at the people who started Black Lives Matter, they are admitted devout communists, socialists. Communism, socialism, same fucking thing. Now, that being said, the fact that Mr. Rittenhouse's personal life has been thrown all over, like in the social media, they've tried to throw it all over in the trial. The judge rightfully has ruled, several times that this, that, and the third has no bearing on this case. The man was 17 years old at the time. He did not own the weapon. It was bought for him, but he had yet to take possession of it because he had yet to turn 18. However, he did have it in his possession when he was going around trying to help people and clean graffiti and put out fires. That was done for his own personal protection, which, as it turns out, he needed. If he had not had that, and if Mr. Gage, Roseman, and the other gentleman had not been shot, if they had in fact killed Mr. Rittenhouse, then they themselves would never have been brought up on charges, because Kyle Rittenhouse trial is all about political motivation. And as such, we as Americans need to watch very closely, because if Kyle Rittenhouse is found guilty, we will be losing our very fundamental rights to protect ourselves, our lives, our property, our family. Because, well, if Kyle Rittenhouse is found guilty, well, the next act of self-defense where a leftist gets hurt, you could go to jail. Or the next time that you spout to them, hey, all lives matter, not just black lives, or more, no, not black lives more, but all lives matter equally, which is what all lives matter means, by the way. It has nothing to do with racism or anything, even though MSNBC, CNN, certain shows on Fox, ABC, NBC, CBS, PBS will all try to tell you that it does. It doesn't. All Lives Matter is stating that all lives matter. White, black, yellow with orange fucking polka dots. All lives matter. Everyone has the right to live. However, it's not the case according to Black Lives Matter. Only black lives have the right to live and live free and happy according to Black Lives Matter. But that's another video. You know, Mr. Rittenhouse's trial clearly been political and clearly has been a wash, because the prosecution's own witnesses, especially the star witness, has proved that what Mr. Rittenhouse has been saying from the go is true, that he fired his weapon in self-defense. Now, self-defense means that, you are defending yourself. It is that fucking clear cut. He was defending himself. He had been threatened multiple times. He was attacked multiple times. And I'll say this for Mr. Rittenhouse. He has more patience and more consideration than I would have under that situation. With or without a gun, a firearm, if I was put in that situation, I might have taken a few lumps, but there would have been a lot more bodies. I would not have tried to wound or maim. I would have straight out fallen back on my training, fallen back on my instinct, which is to kill. Period. Plain and simple. Which means I would not have aimed for a shoulder or a leg or a toe or an ear. I would have aimed center mass or aim for the head. I happen to be proficient with the firearms. If I aim for a head, my round will hit the head. If I hit for center mass, my round will hit center mass. It is what it is. As long as that weapon is dialed in, I will hit my target. Now, I said, without a firearm, I don't need one. I would use my hands There are 278 different ways to kill a person with your hands, and I know damn near every one of them, if not every one of them. I would have used a knife, and I guarantee you that Mr. Gage Grossman, who had a Glock, would have had his Glock removed from him by me after he was dead, because he was close enough for Cal to have kicked the gun up and jumped up and snapped the motherfucker's neck, which is what I would have done. Or at the very least, I would have kicked his fucking knee, which would bum down to my level, and then I would have done him. You see, I firmly believe in the Second Amendment, but I also believe in everyone's right to defend themselves. It is what it is. So, we will have to wait and see after closing arguments and the jury deliberates whether the jury will give in to terrorism, which is what happened in the trial of the officer with George Floyd. The jury was terrorized into a guilty verdict because BLM and everyone was all over the news, Maxine Waters and everybody else was all over the news saying, if this cop isn't found guilty, then we're going to riot, we're going to do all these things, and we shouldn't stop ever. So the jury, wanting to protect their city, did what they felt they must do. Therefore, that means that they were put in a spot where damned if you do, damned if you don't, but if you do find him innocent, which according to law he was, then you're going to lose not only your city, but your life and your family's life. Because it was said that if the jury found him not guilty, that they should be beat, doxxed, have their addresses known, and people should go there and, well, do what they had to do, unquote. Now, to me, that says that if you find the person not guilty, that we will come to your house and kill you and your family. Had I been on that jury, I would have been like, fuck them. Let them come. You know, we all go out, we all get weapons. Let them come to our houses. We shoot first, ask questions later. Because I do not negotiate with, nor do I give in to terrorists. But that's me. I'm a hard-nosed individual. I do have empathy for people. I do care about people, but I'm a hard-nosed, no-nonsense kind of guy, and I will not be fucking used. But that's me. However, unfortunately, I'm seeing the exact same tactics being used against Mr. Rittenhouse's jury, with the exception of being able to say that, you know, if they find him innocent, that they should riot and all that, because the judge has pretty much put a stop to that bullshit. The DA, multiple times during Grossman's testimony under cross-examination, was face palming because he was like, oh my God, we're fucked. Damn, we're fucking screwed. Fuck. Putting his head down, his hands over his face. That is a clear-cut case of someone who just got raped up the ass by troops. And truth, whether you like it or not, truth is like facts. Truth don't give a fuck about your feelings. It don't give a fuck if you like it or not. The truth and the facts, they just fucking are. And in this case, the truth and the facts is that Kyle Rittenhouse acted in self-defense and he should not be on trial. If I was Mr. Rittenhouse's attorney, I would immediately after this case has been won, actually I would have already asked for a mistrial based on the DA trying to insinuate about evidence that the judge has already ruled unadmissible, but the DA was trying to be slick and sneak references to it anyway. I would have asked for a mistrial with extreme prejudice, meaning that they could not retry him ever because of double jeopardy. However, I understand the defense letting it go. I understand the judge letting it go, so that there can be no question in anyone's mind later on. So I understand that. However, as soon as this trial is over with, if I was Mr. Grossman's attorney, I would be filing a multi-billion-dollar lawsuit against the Kenosha County District Attorney's Office, the District Attorney himself, the families of the dead men, and Mr. Grossman, as well as against the social media companies, Facebook, YouTube, Twitter, and against any and all news agencies who blatantly lied, from the Young Turks all the way to CNN. Hang them all. I would multi-billion dollars. It would be a huge lawsuit. It would probably take a few years, but he would win. Which means the lawyer gets a lot of money. Mr. Rittenhouse gets a lot of money, does not have to work ever again. Because of this, it will be hard for Mr. Rittenhouse to find a job due to the fact that they have slandered and assassinated his character beyond belief. But these are my own personal opinions based on the law, my understanding of the law, and the facts of the case. Whether or not he is found guilty or not, we will have to wait and see what the jury says. And I will be making a follow-up video after the jury makes their decision known. Monday will be closing arguments, and then the jury deliberation will begin. Until then, until the next video, please remember, think for yourself. Do not be like the Young Turks or CNN or MSNBC and not do your proper due diligence. Always do your proper due diligence and research on anything you see, hear, read, or are told. And by all means, look at it with an objectively open mind and just don't look at it from a point of bias. Look at it like a scientist, a logical scientist. Not one who's trying to make his theory fact by forcing things that are not so into the place, but rather one that is trying to make sense of what is going on and see if his theory holds water by correctly doing correct research. Whether it agrees with me or not, I do not care. You need to do your own research and come to your own conclusions. Use your own mind, which is the most powerful muscle we have in our bodies, is our mind. If you do not use your mind, it will, like any other muscle, atrophy. So we have to exercise our mind every day. So do your own research into everything that I've said, that other people have told you about this, and come to your own conclusions. And, well, if you think I'm wrong, show me your research tell me, show me sources, show me your research, show me how you think I'm wrong, why you think I'm wrong. I will look into it, and if I'm wrong, I will admit it. Otherwise, I won't. That's just how I am. Until next time, I'll be seeing you.